for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the board members to remain standing, please, and give some thought to consider our purpose this evening. Please remember the men and women in the American military stationed at home and abroad, serving the cause of this great country. Thank you. I'll ask the recording secretary to call the roll, please.
Ryan Carson.
Here.
Sue Casey.
Here.
Jessica Decker.
Here.
Jack Fisher.
Here.
Pam Lutfi.
Here.
Jack O'Leary.
Here.
Zachary Pierce.
Here.
Jeff Pike.
Here.
John Robleski.
Here.
All right, have a volunteer to read the mission statement, please.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, John.
Delaware Valley School District, in partnership with our community, stands committed to maximizing student potential, fostering lifelong learning, and promoting responsible citizenship.
Thank you, John.
Well,
Item 2 on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Sue Casey, second.
Second.
Second by Jessica Decker. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Item 3 on the agenda is presentations. I'll move to give the superintendent the floor to introduce tonight's presentations.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, our first presentation was canceled. Joe Gamboni, who was going to present on the reality tour, called this afternoon. She had a family emergency, so she couldn't come. So we're going to try again next month. This will be about the third or fourth time, but we're not giving up, and neither is she. So we're going to keep plugging with it. So she'll be back in September, either at the work session or the regular meeting. But our next presentation is by Miss Jennifer Constantino, who's been a guidance counselor for us for a number of years and became the department head. This is Holzer. So Jen. Sure.
Okay, hi everybody. As John said, I'm Jen Costantino. I am new to the department chair position, but not by any means new to Delaware Valley. I've been here, this is my 7th year as a full-time counselor, and I actually went through Delaware Valley from kindergarten right through graduation. I guess I won't mention when, you don't need to know that. But I did go to the old Chahol Elementary School, if that means anything, so that gives you an idea. So Wanda Holzer, who was our outgoing department chair, did put together a lot of this information. So a lot of this is her data that she put together. She worked very hard on it. I just kind of cleaned some things up. Give her credit for that she did really work on this. She hated to leave things not being finished. If you know Wanda, you would totally understand that. So again, credit to Wanda for a lot of this, but here goes information on our graduating class of 2015. Oh. Okay. The percentage of our students going on to post-secondary education. If you were here last year, I'm sorry you saw that drastic difference. I did work on it with Wanda last year as well as this year. Prior to that, I'm not 100% sure on those calculations, but I know that when Wanda and I took it over, we have been doing that very accurately. We have the students report to us what they are doing after high school, and then that information all gets entered right into PowerSchool, which then goes to PIMS. They break it down into 2-year, 4-year colleges. So that is what you see on this first slide here, but I think you see where we had that number drop a little bit when we looked at the next slide. If you add in any of our students going to the armed services, that percentage goes up to 84%. Last year we had 13 students going into the military. Most of them are receiving training while they're in the military and going on to some kind of career after that, or some of them even are going into committing to the military and then going to college through the military. And then if we add non-degree programs, I threw this in there this year because I think that's important too. That will go up to 89%. So that would include any of our students who are going to maybe a technical program that is a certificate program or an apprenticeship program. So maybe they're not going for a traditional degree, but they are going for training. Anything from a beauty school, cosmetology school, to apprenticeship for welding would fall under that category, and that brings our percentage up further to 89%. We did have several students getting into some selective colleges that are there or getting ready to go there right now. I don't think I need to read over the list because I'm sure that everyone can do that, but I know I have heard from Angelo Max, whose son Angelo is at one of the military academies. We had another student at military. Those are huge because those students are getting their education completely paid for. Air Force prep as well. So we had some very prestigious schools that our students are going to right now. Scholarships. We have a very generous community when it comes to scholarships. As you can see, just from our local scholarships, our students left with over $159,000 just from our local community. Then if you add in private scholarships from any of the universities or colleges that they're attending, that was well over $1 million. And we had some students receiving athletic scholarships this year as well that went through the clearinghouse and were able to receive Division I or II scholarship money.
And then,
So,
let me interrupt you for a
yeah,
minute.
go ahead.
Jack, what do you think as your son went to the academy? What would the 3 academies add up to be?
Oh,
$4 million each?
370 each.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's this year's number, 370.
Yeah, it's
There's another
huge.
$1 million right there.
Right. So any money that they're getting is a huge help, obviously,
Because
with
they
our
do get a paycheck while they're at the academy. So that's it.
in addition to the full tuition.
So
Yeah.
question, that says private scholarships
Mhm.
accepted, so the student was accepted in 3 or 4 colleges and they all offered a scholarship. You're only counting
The
Place
school
they
they
went.
actually attended, correct? Yeah.
And they get a new balance. That's their job. Oh, have you really? It was a pit last time I saw it.
The next slide here is our APs. Obviously, that is something that we take a lot of pride in at the high school and something that increases, generally speaking, every year. We did have an increase. Our number of test takers didn't go up drastically, but the number of tests that our students actually took did go up quite a bit. AP test results came in over the summer. That's always a big thing we wait for. So this year's class, we had 72 AP scholars. Now, AP scholar means that they scored 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. We had 15 AP scholars with honors. That means the student had an average of at least a 3.25 on all of the exams they have taken, and that includes a 3 or higher on 4 or more of the AP exams. Then we had 35 AP scholars with distinction. That means they had an average score of a 3.5 or higher on all of the exams that they have taken, and that includes having a 3 or higher on at least 5 AP exams. And then we also had 6 national AP scholars. That is a distinction for students who have a 4 or higher average on all of the exams they have taken, and that includes a 4 or higher on 8 or more AP exams. So that is quite an accomplishment. Just to take 8 AP exams, I would say is quite an accomplishment, and that they scored a 4 or higher on at least 8 with an average of 4. So I'd say that's very impressive. It's outstanding. Our AP class enrollments, now this is what we have on the books for next year. Of course, things do change sometimes, but this is what we had for numbers as far as students who were enrolled in an AP class at least over the summer. We're offering 24 AP classes, and there are 522 students, so 522 individuals that were enrolled in a total of 1,058 classes. So obviously some students enrolled for more than one AP class. 145 sophomores, 158 juniors, and 219 seniors are enrolled in APs. Okay, the dropout rate. The way this is calculated is a little tricky, in my opinion. What the state does, this is calculated by the state, not by us personally, or this is their formula, I should say. They take our total enrollment in grades 7 through 12 as of October 1st. So they take their October 1st snapshot. As of that date, we had 2,470 students enrolled in grades 7 through 12. And then, so they take our total number of dropouts that we had, grades 7 through 12, which was 19 this past year, school reporting year, and they divide that by the total enrollment. So that's where that figure of 0.77% comes from, just so you get an understanding of where that number is coming from. And there hasn't been a very drastic change in that number over the past few years. I think we do a good job keeping our kids here as much as possible. The good old graduation cohort rate, this one's even more confusing, in my opinion, because we get hurt where our numbers look a little bit bad on things that we really have no control over sometimes. So we had the cohort rate for 2014, this isn't calculated yet either for 2015. This is another one that the state calculates. Anyone who was here last summer probably remembers that too, that this one's always a year behind in their calculations. So for 2014, our graduation cohort rate was 94.28%. That is calculated by the number of on-time graduates. They figure that out. They take the number of students who entered 9th grade in 2010. Then they add any transfers that we get in who started 9th grade for the first time in 2010. They subtract any transfers that we get out, multiply that by 100, and you get this number. Where this gets, I think, a little tricky is we have students that, through no fault of their own, are here to learn more skills and benefit themselves and maybe have an IEP and stay here for 5 years or for 6 years. They count against us in this statistic because they are not graduating in 4 years. We also, as you know, at Delaware Valley, we get transfers constantly. We're getting a lot of kids from New York. We're getting kids from New Jersey. We're getting other PA schools. If they come into DV and they're already behind, so let's say they've already repeated 9th grade and they're short on those credits, they also go against our cohort graduation rate. Does anybody have questions about that?
The other thing that hurts too is a senior who has to go to summer school, say they didn't graduate in June and they had to go to summer school this summer, they count against us even if they graduate in August, because they're not part of the 4-year cohort, they're part of the 5-year cohort. So even if they have to stay for 6 weeks in the summer, it hurts us.
So I mean, 94.28 isn't terrible, but I think when you consider those other factors, just to consider when you're looking at those numbers. The state switched over to that way of calculating it for the 2011-12 school year. So I stuck a slide in here just to compare them. There hasn't been much change there. We've been right around 90% and going up a little bit. So, you know, like I said, we do our best to keep our kids here and get them to graduate.
And this is actually a federal formula. The feds make all 50 states use the same formula because they're comparing apples to oranges because everybody used to do it differently.
All the years I've been serving on the board, no one has ever asked me what our graduation cohort rate was.
Yeah, maybe this is why, when they look at how you figure it out. Right?
Have somebody email you tonight.
Just forward it to me.
Are there, I'm sure there are readily available state averages or IU 20 averages, you know, something we could use to benchmark against that would show, my guess is we're doing better than the average.
That's a good question. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I can check on the scorecard website and see where that's at.
Well, who cares? What? So it's a number. So what? Is there funding based on it? Is a grant based on it? It's just another job for somebody.
That could be short on Brendan's job though, for the 13 school districts that we purchased.
Oh, to provide the
Right?
Comparison.
the comparison.
Yeah.
But
But our populations are so different.
what does it mean really?
The national hit,
If
the
it's a
national,
focus number based on who comes and goes at odd times,
I think it's really a device to point out how poorly some inner city schools are doing. And I think that's the reason that it's there, so that somebody can point to some of the schools around the country and say, you know, look at how this school is failing, its graduation cohort rate is 0.4 or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, if 50% of your kids don't make it out in 4 years, that would be something to look at.
In 2014, the national average, across America, we hit 80% for the first time ever in American history. We've never had a graduation rate that high. Because remember, back in the old days, kids would drop out in 8th and 9th grade, go work at the factories. So for 2014 was the first time ever in America we hit 80%.
Does that include Texas?
Texas and Alaska
So we beat them.
and Mississippi.
And then, of course, we have to always look at our SAT scores, which, as we could see from this slide, are on the rise. This also ends in 2014 because of the calendar year. SATs are offered throughout the calendar year, not just at certain times. And they don't really do them by grade level as much as by looking at our kids throughout the whole year. So, 2015 will be tacked onto that next summer when I'm back. But we're on the rise. I think I've personally seen our kids working harder, coming to us to ask us for what can we do to practice more, what resources are available, do you know tutors? So I personally have seen that in the guidance office, which I think is great.
Can I ask you how this is calculated?
This is calculated right from the College Board. They send this to us. So they take all of the DV students that took every student when they go to take the SAT puts in our school code. So the College Board knows that they're a Delaware Valley student. So they actually put this together for us and they send us a report with our scores.
I would love to know what happened between 2013 and 14 to bring about that spike.
That's great. I mean, since I've been here, we have been doing, we use the PSATs for a lot of information. We went back to, I know there was at least 1 year where we switched to doing the Saturday test. We went back to testing every 10th and 11th grade students. We do it on a Wednesday. As long as they're here that day, they are taking the test. And we get a lot of really good feedback from that test. The kids get a great individual score report that shows them, here, they show you question by question. Here's what you did. This was the wrong answer. This was the right answer. These are skills that you should work on before you go take the test. Our teachers also get a great report from that summary of skills and answers, summary of answers and skills. And that breaks down for the teachers too, like here's how many of your kids got this question wrong and this was the area that is in. So I do believe that our teachers, especially in the English and math department, really use that information and have focused on those skills.
That's the PSAT?
The PSAT, right?
And do students need to pay for those?
No, the district pays for
We
those.
do.
Yeah,
Excellent.
for the
That
PSAT.
sounds like a very valuable.
It is very valuable. For the kids that take that seriously, they get really good information back.
And I'll tell you too, when I had an 11th grader last year, and the tab that he was doing all year long were all high frequency SAT. So they really got us aligned. So we were studying the right things.
Again, it'd be nice to see it compared to state or, other averages to see if the state average trended up also or
I could definitely add that in for next
something
year.
like that.
Yeah.
Our college admissions
Oh,
officers.
actually, there we go.
uh,
Next slide.
I'm sorry, question. Are college admissions officers continuing to de-emphasize the SAT? Because I know they were for a while.
I don't think that's consistent from what I've seen with colleges. Some of them still very much want to see that SAT score and have a minimum that they say they want to have on an application. Some of them not. Some of them are offering an optional, like it's a different application that's an SAT score optional application where the kids are supplying more essays, more information about themselves. They can do a traditional application with the SAT score on it, or they can opt for that no score application. Now the SAT is going to change again coming up, and they're getting the writing section taken out. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a swing back to looking at the SAT score more when they make that change. That's just a guess, but I do think that the reason that test is changing is feedback from the colleges.
Thank you.
Sure. And there we do have the, at least for 2014 where the averages were, but I don't have a comparison from year to year, but I can certainly add that in for next year's if that's something. And I also just wanted to put that out there in general. If there's information that is not included in this, this is pretty much the traditional 2015 report that's been given throughout the years. I am not opposed to changing things. I know some people are. I am not. So if there's information that you all feel like would be more beneficial and more useful, by all means, I will give you all my email and, shoot me an email, say, hey, I think this would be great to include next year, something that the board would like to see.
So this is all the test takers, not just the seniors?
Correct. Yeah. So it's mainly juniors and seniors that are taking it. We do get a couple underclassmen that jump in there and take them earlier, but mainly juniors and seniors.
Any questions from the board?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Would you like the email in case you think of anything? Because I don't mind.
I'd like to have that.
Sure.
Have that.
I'll spell it just so it doesn't get, oh, is it on? Okay, it's on there. Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, don't hesitate to contact me.
Item 4 on the agenda is the motion, approval of the minutes. We have a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting held on July 23rd, 2015. Motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Brian Carso, second.
Second.
Second by Sue Casey. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of approving the motion of the board.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Item 5 is reports. I'll ask for any comments on items 5A, administrative and attendance reports, and item 5B, which is financial reports. Hearing none, I'll move to item 5C, which is committee reports. Budget, finance, and audit. Jack Fisher.
I had a nice conversation via email with Mr. Hessling. I just wanted to point out some things. There were a total of 5. One is the 2007 CapEx is finally zero. So we are done with our 2007 CapEx fund. I asked Bill why there were 2 checks written to the healthcare trust this month. If you saw it in your handout, and I was concerned that the amount of each one is not going down. And one of the things we had hoped for is that we get some type of reduction in healthcare costs, which has not yet happened. So we have to keep an eye on that. There were 2 checks, Bill, if I'm right, one was for 8 something, and the other was 8 1/4.
One was July 1.
And so we're paying this month 2 bills, about $1.6 million of the budget is being paid in 2 months. Is that for last budget or this current budget? 1560. So keep an eye on healthcare costs. They did not go down as we anticipated yet. Hopefully they will. The other item I asked them about was our cash position. Given the fact that the state has not approved a budget yet, are we in any danger of not having enough money to get us through the fiscal year? And as of the end of June, we had 19 million in our account, which is better than the past 4 years. And we've gone up 15 million, 16 million, 17 million, 19 million as we put money aside for the reserves, for things like tasers and so forth. And Bill assures me that we're good for most of this fiscal year if there's no budget. So it looks like we've done some sound planning in terms of cash. And I was asking Bill whether or not we should start to stretch our payments out. I guess the answer is not yet as we go forward.
You didn't say not ever?
You didn't say not ever,
Because
no.
I've heard him say not
Yeah,
ever.
no,
It
not
should be
yet.
more than-
If we don't have a
Net
budget from
30.
the state, we might have to, at some point, if we don't receive any money from the state, although that seems to be working its way through the halls of Washington.
And just to add on to that, Jack, one of the things that a lot of districts are considering is a tax anticipation note. And there's two main ways to do it. I mean, that's to the point being there that we wouldn't have to borrow to pay for our operations and pay interest on it and then get the money from the state eventually. So, that's the important stuff. But go ahead.
There was one note that the property tax reduction that comes from the slots money, we did get 1/2 of that allocation. Of course, it's coming in August because that's separate from the state budget. That's part of the slots appropriation. So I did get notified that we were going to get $1.5 million next week from the state, but it's that separate slots money, which I didn't know yesterday when I talked.
Thank you. And then, of course, I asked him about how we're going to be planning the next two $10 million drawdowns. And on that very day, Bill was in contact with PFM and Moody's, who once again will give us a very high rating on our bonds, which I'm really glad to see. It keeps our interest rates really low. We have a very sound balance sheet, very important that we keep that way, which provide us with low interest rates. The actual numbers we're going to find out sometime, I think, next month. The second draw is coming up.
They're hoping to sell the bonds in late August, which isn't that far away, or early September, depending on.
So we should have some numbers next month what our interest rates are. And hopefully they'll be as good as the last time. And then lastly, I asked Bill about our CTE program and how we're going to afford that. And he assured me again that we've built that into our debt service. The CTE money is there for that. And so we can move forward with that. However, with Bill's caveats, as we always have, we do need to look at the cost of our contracts that we agreed to last month. As you all know, we have 5-year and 6-year contracts in place with guaranteed incomes increases for just about every school district employee for the next 5 years. And when I was understanding our discussions on finance, to me that meant increasing, unless the state, the caveat that Bill does, unless the state gives us more money, that those increases will come from the local taxpayer, and or reductions in our budget in other areas. So as we go forward and we put together the pieces of the CTE programs, that next month or tonight?
Next month.
Next month. We need to make sure that we have in mind that we're going to have increases in operating expenses, but we've tucked away enough money to pay CapEx expenses. But we haven't tucked away enough money to pay operating expenses. So as we go forward, we need to always be cognizant of the fact that we've all agreed, and I think it was 9-0, if I was correct, that 2.5% to 3% a year in our biggest expenditure. 76% of our expenditures come from salaries. We're a service organization, that's really normal. And we've agreed to increase that 2 to 3% a year for the next 5 years. So I'm a debits and credits type guy. When the expenditures are going up, I want to know where the money's coming from to pay for it. Either there'll be other expenditures that go down to offset it, or there'll be revenue flowing in from one of our 3 sources. I think we can forget about the federal government. That's not going to happen. But we have our local taxpayers, we have the state. And right now, what I consider a quagmire, although I did read one article recently that said they're really talking to each other now. But if the state were not to give us, what's the word, John? Hold harmless?
Mm-hmm.
If hold harmless were not to happen, we could actually get a reduction in state aid. Now, my guess is that's not going to happen. So we have to keep an eye on the revenue side of things as we all agreed to increase our expenditure side of things. So that's my, we did not have a committee meeting. It was just my conversations with Bill and John and Zach about where the finances are for DB right now. Things are sound. We're going to get a really good bond rating from Moody's, which is really important. And I'm glad to hear some of the money from the state came in. That was news from what didn't happen yesterday. So that's all I have for budget finance.
John, the group that you spoke in front of regarding the hold harmless, where are they at? They come back to you with anything?
They made their recommendations to the legislature back in June. What they didn't know, and it's not their call as a committee, is when would the legislature take them up on it? Would it be this year or would it be in next year's budget cycle? So it kind of all got thrown into the pot.
What were their recommendations regarding?
Well, their recommendation were that the final number is our state aid was going to go up about 1.5%.
So they're not going to take hold harmless away from us.
Right.
That's your feeling.
That seemed, that was pretty much the consent, I think, right? Is that
Yeah,
the
I mean-
PSBA and around the state?
The way it works, and if you're in your, what's the weekly report? Week in review last week, I think it was, or no, it was after the last meeting, the July meeting. John put in there the video, you probably couldn't put it in the maybe, but that explains how the new ratio or the new aid would be allocated. But essentially, for us, since the whole harness would affect us, retrospectively, we don't have to worry about it, but prospectively, we would get less than, the current situation, we would get more, but if they correct the issue, so they basically decided that they can't remove hold harmless because it affects over, half of the school districts in the Commonwealth. So, moving forward, the people that have actually lost out will slowly make it back up, and the people that have benefited from it.
So they could have, that's what I was hoping
Yeah.
for. If they took it away, not to take it all at once, because there's so many schools that are gonna be affected, especially us.
You're right.
Right.
I worry about us first.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just a matter of
of.
slower growth, but potentially coming law at the end of the year, potentially.
So if you're a district that lost a tremendous amount of enrollment, and some of the rural districts have, they'll plateau where they are, but they shouldn't count on any new money going forward because there's no, but they don't want to just decimate them by taking $1 million away from a small school. So they're frozen basically in a sense, and all new money goes to people that's driven by poverty, ESL kids, special ed
daily membership.
kids, average daily membership of its student attendance, your income. So all those factors will drive the new money, but the old money will stay the same.
Yeah, one of the nice things is when, from Delaware Valley, we get a state revenue of about 33%, of our budget, so that we're less reliant in terms of having this crossbill. I mean, but the state really shouldn't do their job and get it done by June 30th. But in the case that it doesn't, if you have districts that are, and there are rural districts that have a smaller tax base and they're getting 60% of their budget from the state, now it's a problem because now they don't have operating revenues coming in and they need it. So that was the first part of the point.
Also, one of the battles that's going on is that the governor wants any new money that he's requesting to put back what the Corbett administration may have taken away, then implement the new funding formula next year. The GOP wants to implement the formula this year. That could make a difference in money to ourselves, so I think we want the both version.
So there is, I'm sorry, go ahead. Jack and or Bill, so I mean, PSERS is certainly an issue when bond rating agencies are looking at our financial state and coming up with what interest rate we rate at. Is it fair to say that the fact that we've got some PSERS reserve is one of the things that they look at?
There's no question. I mean, they looked at all our reserves, and then they put a comment in there that they know that the liability is huge, but they put a comment in there that relative to other similar school districts, that we are in a good position to be able to handle it because we have put some reserves away.
Well, that's good to hear, because I think it's important for the public to understand too, that when we address that issues of PSERS and keeping our reserves up in the latest budget, we are in fact saving some money on interest rates and so forth by making sure we are sound financially. That's good news.
And I think we've all agreed, once we've hit the crest of the PSERS increase, we're going to start using our reserves to lower that crest. We don't want to do it before we hit the crest, otherwise we're going to have a big drop at some point. So we want to shave that crest down over time, and if we can do it over a 10-year period, we've got, let's say, $8 million. If we could use $500,000 a year, it'll last a long time. If we could use $800,000 a year, it'll last basically 10 years to get us over this tremendous increase. As you know, PSERS is going to be 31.5% of our salaries. We've just increased our salaries by 15%. So we need to be very cautious that we don't start using that money until we hit the crest. And then at that point, we should use it sparingly over a long period of time, 8, 10, 12, 15 years.
Jack, the 1.5 million that we got from the slots, that Bill said we just got from the slots, does that go towards that reserve or does it go into the general fund?
That's a general fund revenue.
Now, that is the homestead reduction money, meaning when if you apply for the homestead thing, it comes off of the tax bill, and then the district gets that from the state to replace what the tax bill reduction was. And those,
What did we get last year? Do you remember? From the citizens, from the response?
that fund, they spend 2.9 million just about every year.
About $371, I see that on my tax.
That's the tax break
Yeah,
per
that's the
house.
break, that it all got some added on. So it just reimburses from the slots.
Education, John Robleski.
Okay, the curriculum has been available for review electronically in the room behind us for several days, and had the opportunity to go through some courses in detail. It's very well organized, really easy to follow. I think it's in plain everyday language. And that is up for a vote. We are approving the revised curricula tonight under other items. We also have an item for the approval of additional new textbooks, which we have discussed in previous meetings, but if anybody wants an update on that, I'm sure Gina will be happy to put in.
The textbooks, and we did mention last meeting, AP art history. In addition to that, we have 2 special ed courses that we are purchasing new textbooks for. One is Math 11, vocational math, and that's on display in the room next door. And also Math 12, personal finance literacy. And the special ed teachers got together and really felt that they needed some textbooks, and we do always have money in our high school budget in case there are new textbooks that need to be purchased or additional copies. So the cost for the AP art history is $2,267. The cost for the special ed math vocational is $1,467, and the cost for the personal finance and literacy is $2,573. And they've been incorporated into the new curricula that have been written. So.
And you have an attachment on the new textbook proposals summary on your computer under approvals. That's all I've got to say.
So John or Gina, perhaps, so the curriculum revisions list that we got lists a lot of, are those the courses that have had revisions, or are those new they're just courses that have revised?
It's a combination. We do have some new courses that we adopted this school year, so this coming school year, so it's both. We revised 67 curricula, and of those, there are probably about 7 or so, 5, 7 new ones. From the high school, we did some phys ed, we did, it's a combination.
Statistics.
We did the video game design. I want to say there were about 7.
Freshman seminar.
Freshman seminar.
You know, my wife teaches art history at SUNY New Paltz, and she looked at the curriculum in the textbook and said it was awesome.
It is. If you go pick it up, it's.
Yeah, I know, it's
white belt.
but it's one of the best there is.
It is, it's really good, and it's what the College Board recommends, so.
Facilities, Chuck.
Okay, in your packet is the executive summary report number 3 on the building construction project. It's also on the website. Thank you, John, for that. There's
That was a good idea, Chuck, thanks.
there's updates on the website now with renderings and of the elementary project, school project, and also the TV campus project. As far as schedule, it's on schedule. It remains June 22nd, the substantial completion date, 2016. And budget status, pending changes are $20,278, and remaining contingency about $375,000. So unless there's something I'm not aware of, looks like we're in good shape financially there.
Yes, people, there's been comments about people thinking we're not gonna open school on time because they see that big giant pile of dirt out front. So I let them know, that big pile of dirt's not going anywhere. That dirt is for the new field that will be placed out there. But it won't happen until next summer. I'm just gonna try to get them to shave it a little lower so it doesn't look so daunting. And it's not so attractive to kids to try to get up on. Can you imagine when the snow gets on it? So we're gonna try to get them to shave that big pile down. That stuff will stay there. And the first week of school is gonna be really difficult. There's no 2 ways about it. You know what traffic's like in the morning coming in high school when people know where they're going. Well, they really don't know where they're going because everything is different in terms of parking. There's no parking in front of the building at all. And all the seniors pretty much park in front of the building in the past. So they're all gonna be pushed to the side to the junior lot and the overflow lot. The junior's gonna be pushed around to the middle school side. There's staff that parks in front of the high school that will not anymore. Door 3 is famous at DVES as the drop off for parents who drop kids off or pick them up. We're reversing that this year. The buses are going to door 3 because it's a much smaller area and we only have 8 buses that serve the elementary school. And the front driveway, the horseshoe, is where the kids are going to be picked up and dropped off by their parents, because there's a lot more room for cars there than there is on the side where the construction is. So we're flip-flopping everything. So that's going to be fun too.
Do the parents know this?
I was supposed to be in the summer letter, but I don't know. But we are going to have tons of staff out there the first week to basically, we'll have traffic cops. If you don't teach first grade, you become a traffic cop.
I could have missed it, but I don't remember reading that.
Yeah.
We could do an all-call.
I think we're going to need to do one over the weekend before leading in.
That's gonna be a heck of a first day.
Oh, it's going to be a beauty.
People don't.
Are you free that day?
You still
I'm very busy. I'm in West
West
Point.
Point.
I'm in the tunnels underneath the MacArthur barracks. You can't catch me.
John, are you concerned about adequate parking? Do we need to restrict student parking?
One of the things I had a conversation with Mark Moglia the other day, and one of the things we may have to do is incrementally that what we call the overflow lot, the larger lot that gets closer to the diner, that lot gets progressively fuller as the year goes on, as kids get their license. There may be a point during this year where we're gonna say, sorry, there's no more room at the end. February or March, you're not gonna get a parking permit. So we're very close. Our estimates of how many kids will come in the first week looking for a parking permit, and we think we're almost at max. So
If you have a student that comes in that has, that needs to work after school, you kind of prioritize once you get to that.
well, the problem is it's very hard to say that's more important than somebody else's issue. So we're gonna get to a point where tough noogies, you started the year without a parking spot, you're gonna end there. Yeah, and that's what people do. We don't condone it,
Yes.
but that's certainly worked. Some kids have gone to avoid drug tests in the past. They've parked at Walmart.
And John, event parking, because, the football games are always
Yeah.
very crowded. Maybe there's an opportunity to talk to Walmart and reach an understanding for events.
Well, actually, the Walmart lot is jammed. If people are coming off of 84 or from Matamoros, they learn they don't want to get on campus and tie up. So they already load the Walmart lot.
You must be pleased.
Yeah. The front lot of the high school is half construction area and half parking for the contractors. But they're gone by 3:30, which will at least open half of the front parking lot for 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, even 7 o'clock games. So that'll help with basketball, wrestling. We'll get half our parking lot back after the construction guys leave. For football games, we're gonna set up a second ticket booth at the far end of the bleachers, and we're gonna run shuttles from the middle school lot across the back service road and deliver people to the second ticket booth. Like we did years ago when we used to only have one set of bleachers and we were really worried about the traffic from Abington Heights for a championship game. And we shuttled them back and forth from the middle school. We're gonna set that up for the 5 home games because so many people are gonna have to park around back, and you wouldn't want most people, particularly parents and grandparents, to have to walk that far. So.
My biggest concern, I'm sure I don't have to say this, is with all the construction gear and the fences and so forth, safety has got to be the priority. Safety for our students and our visitors. So I'm sure you've had words with the construction manager about that, but we're just a few days away from opening.
Right.
We want to make sure that everything that can be done is done for the safety of our
Absolutely. And also we have overnight security as well, so that people don't get into the area overnight, because that's a real concern. What if kids or somebody else tries to get in there at nighttime when everybody else is gone? We have security on campus all night long. So that's a plus. It's not a guarantee, but it's a plus.
Thank you.
And John, lighting in that area, particularly during like home football games, we may want to light that area.
We're gonna rent more lights from CRC, more than we normally do, just because we're gonna have to bring them in from 2 different directions now, from being out back and out front. So it's gonna be quite a chore. We're lucky we don't play a home game until September 18th, so we have time to get it together.
I haven't seen construction since I got back, but do they have like the Jersey barricades up in front of the thing, or is it just fencing?
It's all fencing. Yeah, and then basically, over here, you'll see it's fencing, and then a lot of the supplies are just inside the fence,
Yeah, so,
and then the vehicles are farther inside.
How about the bus route in front of the high school?
Fewer buses will be in front of the high school this year, and more will be out back, because we have a smaller bus platform, smaller bus circle. There'll still be a slew of double stack buses in front of the 11 and 12, but they have to turn sooner. They can't get all the way to the pool because so they're turning, and we've graded away the curbing and some of the area where the police car used to park, and all that's been regraded so the buses can make the turn. So yeah, that's going to be. It's funny because things are going to be so incredibly easy a year from now, when we have no elementary school in the way, we have all this extra parking, and we can use both entrance exits instead of only using one like we use now. But boy, are we going to pay the price in the meantime? To get that luxury, it's going to be a chore. There's no two ways about it. That's why we have to put a lot of staff on it.
We'll be putting in speed bumps next year to slow them down.
Maybe Matamoros will help us pay for them.
They don't have anything.
We paid for theirs, they'll pay for ours.
It's the fun part of the superintendent's job.
Oh, there's so many.
All right, health, safety, and wellness, Jack O'Leary.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Negotiations, I don't have any report. Policy, Sue Casey.
As a piggyback to special ed meeting earlier tonight, we went over policies 823, the new suicide prevention program. We went over policies 113, 113.1, and 113.2, all have related to special ed. There were lots of suggested revisions, some of which we agreed to tonight and will be in the policy, some that will need a little research by the administration. We'll come back with some changes so that we can review them at a subsequent meeting in September and possibly, with no further discussion, approve them in October. John had given us information tonight on policies 103, 104, and 248, which are in your packets, all relating to harassment and discrimination. And for legal reasons, we have some changes that need to be made. John mentioned on or before around March. So they're in your packets for a little reading. And I do not want to forget policy 251, homeless. We had a conversation with a situation with some members of the public 2 months ago, I guess, about our homeless policy, and we needed to sort of jump into that and understand it more clearly. I don't know what's on the work session agenda for September, but if nothing else falls in there, I'd like to get a few minutes so that we can read and have a conversation around the homeless policy, and if it does what it says it's going to do and meets the needs of the students to all reasonableness that we can possibly afford.
Thank you. Calling IU 20, Pam.
I have nothing to report right now for that.
Any legislative?
5 days ago, I had the pleasure of having a very informal but engaging conversation with Rosemary Brown and Mike Piper. We spoke for about 20 minutes. I did with each of them. And I just discussed a lot of topics with them of things that was somewhat unclear to me. One of those being fracking and the difference between the severance impact aid and the fracking. We receive impact aid for fracking, but we don't have severance tax. So we discussed that, the pros and cons. I'm still not sure how I feel about each, but I was surprised to learn that we did receive about $240,000 in impact aid for fracking. And my comment to them was I would like to have more discussion about how those funds could be used more for educational purposes. So they did jot that down, so we'll see what happens. I reminded them we had a meeting in this room, and I'm still waiting information about funding sources for CTE. So they did say they'd look into that. Rosemary mentioned that she is on 6-hour notice. Michael didn't say, but as far as the budget in the past, they could have notice within 6 hours to always be available to come for finalization. But if they have a feeling it might be a while before they get that phone call.
Yeah.
The one thing,
The 200,000 you said we received from Pat Day.
240,000, I didn't know.
We received.
Pike County, I'm
Okay.
sorry,
Oh.
yes, I'm sorry, not Delaware Valley, Pike County.
Doesn't go to education.
I didn't know that our county received anything since we have no fracking going on, but it is a result of other people's fracking experiences. So there's a funding formula, so we got a very small amount compared to some places. But it was always my hope, especially if we do entertain a severance tax or whatever, that, we have significant input about using that money for education. Right now, I believe it is going for some infrastructure. We
Is that
just
at
need
all
it
related
also.
to having a pipeline pass through the county?
Has nothing to do with anything except for the fact that we get a piece of somebody else's action. So it's just the benefit of someone else doing fracking.
They didn't specify what the infrastructure was. Today, it's not pipelines.
No, it's actually road maintenance. So I'm very interested in knowing, especially since, that is significant to us and our buses. I would like to know how that money is being used for road maintenance in Pike County. I don't have the answer because it's something I have to research, but I'll come back to you with it.
It'd just be ironic if they used fracking money to run more pipelines.
No, I mean,
I'm just.
I thought maybe we qualified for maybe a portion of the formula was based on the fact that the pipeline transports some of the gases is related to fracking. So I don't know if that we benefited from that at all based on it.
My point was different. I just want to make sure that they were
Using
using
it to do.
Yeah, exactly. I don't trust them.
Somehow I missed that. I mean, did you know that Pike County received funding for, yeah, I didn't, so I don't know how we get that information, how we're better served with that information, but that was a comment I made that, I would like to have.
You could all go to the library to help educate the kids instead of.
Yeah, just a percentage to use. It was very interesting. Rosemary mentioned that she is presenting a plan. I don't know if it's legislation or a plan, just whatever, but she is proposing that school board members in Monroe County be paid. And, of course, she saw my bewilderment, but she explained that the system there, and John, you might be able to explain a little better, the system there is different in that they have like a representative, about 2 school board members elected that tend to be from each school, regional.
Yeah, like different areas.
Okay, so she felt that it could work for that area more so than it could work for another area. So just reminded me of New York City and some of the problems there, so
That's right.
I wasn't too
I
interested.
told her I didn't think it was a very good
No,
idea. That's
I
not like said, but.
She brought that up to me over a year ago. And I
She
said,
wanted
"Hey,
full-time, she wanted full-time paid coordinators.
And she wanted a regional, this was over a year ago when I spoke to her about this, she wanted a regional school board, so that one school board that would be paid would cover a variety of schools.
and that was Bill Hesson and John. And so I think if you want to find out how to run a school district very effectively, very honestly, those are the two people to contact. But she said she already had invited you.
She tried to set something up last year. She shanghaied me into doing it. Thankfully, it got canceled, so I didn't have
I'll be on alert.
I think the firm was closed. She was trying to do the firm with.
What you touched on there, I thought about, I have trouble sometimes getting here on time. But I've thought about going to different districts to sit in on their meetings, Stroudsburg, East Stroudsburg, just to see it, just to experience it. I don't think it would be a bad idea. If we did that on our own, without being there, being informed. Obviously, if there was support, that would be nice too. If we had a day where all school boards could meet in some central area. But if not, without that, we can still do it.
Yeah, there might be some value in that.
And
But
that's
if
something
you get
Zach
together
set
with a plan.
So as a brief break from the commercial here, I'll advertise that PSBA is holding an annual conference in October, which is a great opportunity to get together with thousands of your peers across the state.
$1
Rotary advertise. No, but seriously, I mean, Pam has gone to conference for many years as the only delegate from this board, and we can send as many as we want, but it's a really tremendous opportunity. You can only take a day from work. You can go down there for a day. The Wednesday of the week is particularly interesting because you can go to all different kinds of workshops throughout the day, and you can network. Networking is the other aspect of what school board members across the Commonwealth we find our members like to get along with. Going into late fall and early spring, there will be a number of on-site trainings, including new board member training, board presidents day, all that kind of stuff. That's all those opportunities for networking that you'll also have as well. But at that point,
I'm looking at attending at least one day.
I'm hoping to attend part of it as well.
Yeah, I can't make a commitment right now because of personal things going.
What do we need to do to attend that? Did we see Julie?
When is that?
in October, it's
October 9th, 10th, 11th, I think.
the 10th to the 12th.
We have no board meeting that week on purpose. We set the meetings for the 2nd and 4th because it's the third weekend, the third week.
I'm
So
sorry,
we'll have to rush back.
it's Tuesday the 13th through Friday the 16th.
And when should we be talking with Julie about?
As soon as possible. I think early bird registration ends the end of the month, so there's a discount to the district.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, the option that the district took for dues, we also get a discount on members attending conference as well.
So Julie, those of us who can attend all or part, what do you want us to do? Just call you up?
Email me, let me know what day you want to attend,
Okay, terrific.
you're staying down there.
Yeah, if you need a room or if you guys go down and back, whichever one, just let her know.
Okay, terrific. Good. Okay, will you be there, Zach, run the show?
I'll be there. I'm on the clock, but I'll be there.
Pam's always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good and bad of no other school board members attending is I'm forced to go and be an orphan and sit at other people's tables. But, it's lonely when you're there for a couple of days and you can't go and discuss this exciting opportunity or idea with your fellow school board members because by the time we meet, school starting and everything else is getting in the way. But the advantage of it is I have learned so much through the years of how other school boards and districts operate and their positives and negatives. So you do the same. You have lots of opportunities to network and the seminars that they offer are just outstanding. Top notch.
So you got a guilt to sit.
Yeah, I think we definitely can have 2 official delegates at the platform.
Which is
We're
the
gonna
Tuesday of the
discuss-
week, but I mean,
Yeah.
any number of, the whole board can go. If you wanted to.
I'm just observing that process. It's really enlightening.
Anybody can attend that.
Even if you could make a day, like Wednesday's a great day for sessions. If you could leave in the morning, go down, and some people can come back at night. It's well done. And Pam does get lonely because she chased me down the hall when she saw me last week.
Item, I'm sorry. Special education, Pam and Jess.
We had a work session tonight in regards to special education and policy. Maria gave us a handout that had the program placements for the self-contained programs, and she's going to give us some more information as far as where the homeschool of those children are, we're going to those self-contained classrooms, and about the cost of additional programs that other schools as well.
I have a question for Maria. What is life skill support, basically, quickly?
Life skills support are for students who typically have intellectual disabilities. Their program is academic in nature, but it really focuses on providing functional life skills for those students to be able to live as independently as possible when they get past high school.
Okay. Could, because that's what I thought, it was something like that. When I went down, when I visited with Clyde Horsberger down there in Bethlehem, they did a certain thing like that. Could we work that life skills into the CTE program?
You mean, could we have students in our life skills program who do access our CTE programs? Yes.
Okay, because that was very, it was very good down in Bethlehem, what they were doing.
They have a specialized program down there for students, an entirely separate program for students with cognitive disabilities.
I liked it very much where I saw that. The other thing is, now that I've taken my Nicorette, I hope this is legal on campus.
For adults, I think it is, yeah.
Okay.
You just can't sell it to kids.
Now that I'm a little bit more calmer, I have my Nicorette gummy.
Should I keep some in my office?
No. I have a whole pack, don't worry.
I gotta keep iced tea for this guy. I gotta make it for you. York peppermint patties for myself. I got this whole growing list.
I went through the list here, the one that we started with. And
Snickers.
the autistic support in Delaware Valley Elementary. I understand. I just understand, that's the only one that I have a problem with. But not being there, that a child from that area would have to go all the way up to Shoal. And I understand it's separate busing and everything. I
You
understand
mean
it's
not
separate
having
busing.
one in Delaware?
Right. And now it's gonna be even further down into the thing. Like if it was in Shoal, I could say, well, it was at least centrally located in Shoal, it was 20 minutes from here. Could you tell me how many kids we're dealing with here? And what the time is from a bus? Like if a child gets on a bus in, let's just say Matamoros, we don't even have to go up to Millville. But in Matamoros, if a child gets on at Matamoros, how fast does that child get to Dayton?
Well, the not so simple answer is it depends on the number of students we are picking up between Matamoros and that school. So if there's one or two kids in the in the Matamoros or Milford area that they're picking up along the way, that trip is 35 minutes, as long as the bus would take to get there.
Right.
If they're going in to get a child in Gold Key along the way, and so it all depends.
To add, if we had a demand, and if there was more children that slowed down that transportation to Dayton, Delaware, and there's a lot of ifs in that. Adding an autistic support to Delaware Valley Elementary sometime in the future, if needed, how difficult would that be?
See it once.
It's a classroom and it's a teacher and it's instructional assistants.
So it's not immovable, it can be done if it was need be.
A program can be done anywhere if we need it, if we have.
We've moved it. If Marie could give us the sheet for the last 7 years, you would see that those programs have popped around based on either availability, room space, teacher enrollment. It hasn't always looked like this.
All right, so if there's a need, it can be done.
It could be done, certainly. And I think what Jessica asked for is a copy of the students by their home school by program. So I will have that, so you'll be able to see the number of students.
I'd really like to see that, I'd really like to see that. But you don't think that's necessary right now?
I don't think that is. If I did that, I would have asked for it.
All right, I'd like to ask you what you need, Maria. All
This
right.
board has been very good in coming right out and asking me that question year after year.
I'm a lot calmer after I take the Nicorette. All right, I apologize.
And I'm glad I don't have to move my seat, because I was up on the move there.
I got up and left.
And I'm kind of glad you were sitting there, sir.
Just trying to move away and avoid your block.
I went the other way, I went the long way out and around.
All right.
5D is the superintendent's report.
I have a lengthy, no, I don't. I have 4 quick things, because I was gonna make a pledge to make this a really quick meeting for you, because I felt bad how long you were here in July. And you guys already killed that. So, moving forward. First thing is Don Flynn will be here in September to do a presentation on CTE. He's working with Quandale to get price estimates on the design that we want to show you. So that'll be coming next week.
Serious prices, this is.
Yeah, this is real stuff,
This
not
is real.
ballpark,
Okay.
you know. Everything is coded out on new construction, heavy construction, moderate construction, you know, and then it's all priced based on that.
At the work session or the regular meeting?
We're still trying to juggle back and forth on their schedules.
Well, if we get it at the work session, we can vote on that at the next meeting, or we have to wait a month.
No, you don't have to wait for that.
Because you were saying we're gonna hit times.
Well, we're getting to a point where we're gonna have to make a decision soon.
Right.
Otherwise, we're gonna miss the cycle of prepare everything, put it out to bid, open bids, marshal up the troops to start construction in June. Otherwise, we'd have to wait another June.
Right.
So that's why we'll get them back here right away in September. We'll also have a presentation. I'll do a presentation on the annual report next month, and then we'll have, a presentation on the test scores next month. Niche.com is a website. You might have seen it on the sign out front. The niche.com is all by parents and teachers rating their schools. And DV High School was 33 in the state. Just as a comparison, Parkland was 49, Abington was 70. Nationally, we were number 364 of high schools out of 20-some thousand high schools. So that's kind of cool because this is one, unlike all the other awards which are based on metrics, this is actually parent and student opinions, which they could really kill you if it's on the wrong day, you know.
It's not
So,
like the Kingston Royal thing.
yeah.
If they didn't take the Nicorette gum that day, you're dead. You're dead in the water.
And one other thing I wanted to say, I have 2 more things. They invited me and they invited Zach as board president to sit in on a phone conversation. We had a call from Fox Business News. There's a show called In View with Education that's hosted by Larry King. And somehow our district was recommended to their research team. Their research team did research on us, and we had a call with the producer because they were considering us for their TV show on exemplary education. We listened to it. It was exciting. They liked our answers. And then at the end, they told us it cost $25,000. Well, thanks anyway, you know, because there's no commercials, so they have to have production money to film it. So we told them, thank you, and
Go out and get commercials.
basically, can't your foundation write a check for 25 grand? I'm like, that's
Plus with some
scholarship.
districts too, they have local sponsors and stuff, but, you know, John and I discussed it, and we said we couldn't really justify asking for that, and especially when the net effect is at 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and we could have students put together production for local realtors or whatever the added benefit is to the local community, so.
But it was a nice honor that they even considered us, but it wasn't that nice. You know?
That's what happens when Larry King joins up with Fox, huh?
Things get expensive, that's right. Larry's got to get his cut.
These guys are like-
And then the final thing is just enrollment, to give you an update. We graduated about 400 and our kindergarten slated to come in is 283. So it's about 117 student difference. And for quite a few years, our seniors have been 100 more than our kindergarten. But Marvin made a comment to me, he's not here tonight, he made a comment to me that the last 2 weeks have been the busiest 2 weeks since 2006. And we all went, what? And so I asked them to give me a report of the number of kids that withdrew this summer and the number of new students. 26 students across the district have withdrawn. This was in July and August up through last Friday. 26 have withdrawn and 143 new have enrolled. So that basically offset the 120 student differential between the graduating class last June and the smaller kindergarten. So we're 10 kids up from where we were this time last year. We're a plus number of students for the first time in a long time.
They just came in at different levels.
Yeah, they're all over the place. Yeah, the chart, like here's the chart by building and by grade, and you'll see there's just, there's digits all over the place. So thankfully, it doesn't drive a need for new teachers or anything like that, because they're scattered among 7 buildings and 13 grades, so.
Is the majority in the lower grades? So they're gonna have these kids for a while? Or?
New students, kindergarten 17, first grade 10, second grade 17, third grade 9, fourth grade 13, fifth grade 12, sixth grade 12, seventh grade 13, 8th grade 8, 9th grade 11, 10th grade 4, 11th grade 6, and seniors, 11 seniors, which is shocking. You hardly ever see anybody move as a senior. So, for a total of 143, 27 new at the primary, 20 new at Dingman's Elementary, 10 new at DVES, 21 new at Shahola, 19 at Dingman's Middle, 14 at DV Middle, and 32 new at the high school. That's a nice spread.
Yeah. And are they taking the new jobs up at the new plant?
There goes your cohort.
There goes your cohort rate.
Yeah, right. Well, fortunately, most of the high school kids, what do we have? 21 out of the 33 were not freshmen, so they don't skew the cohort too badly. But yeah, we've had an influx at Dingman's Elementary of people who are going to work at Car Arms.
Yeah, I would think so.
The welcoming program, a program to welcome new students into the district, assimilate them into our schools, the high school, the elementary. It's much different, it's a different grade level, but I imagine bringing that many new seniors into a school could take an effort to make that happen smoothly without disruption, without, it would take, some management administrative work to make that happen without a problem.
Yeah, and these kids should, I believe every one of the high school kids will meet with their counselor the week before school, next week, the week before school starts. Just because they have to get their schedule set, give them tours of the building, meet all the people, things of that nature. Now, the freshmen, the 11 freshmen will be at the freshman orientation. We have all freshmen. We bus them in from Shahola, Dingman's, and PE. They all get bused to the high school next week for freshman orientation. But the other kids, what they'll get, there's not an official program,
right?
But the counselors pick each one of them up.
Just thinking that there's some way to, some welcome names, postings, let all the other classmates know that there are new students, and something to help facilitate that. Because I'm, back in the day, that's how fights started.
Yeah.
And, what we can do up front to kind of, help that out, I think, especially at the higher level.
Yeah. And we also have a club rush the second week of school where all the clubs set up shop in the gym so that the kids can come around and learn about the clubs. Because that's the fastest way to make friends, is to join something. And then you make friends through that relationship.
So encourage the 11 new to get it active.
Yeah, and get all those kids in there's 32 new in the high school. So the counselors, when they talk to them about schedule, they also talk to them about their interest and they give them the trifold brochure about all the clubs and talk to them about what are some of the things. Because if you don't join something right away, you're a pretty lonely soul for a while. Unless you happen to be in a community where you happen to meet somebody at the school or anything. But I'll follow up with the high school too. Sure. Absolutely.
John, I don't want to steal your thunder from next week, but I've been reading a lot about test scores and how dramatically they've dropped in a lot of school districts. A lot of people are questioning the validity of the tests. I'm very curious to see how our test scores have gone, but I think we better brace ourselves for what's going to look like bad news.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. I mean, all over the country, and I have an article that I'll give you before we show the scores to you. But all over the country, as we've adopted the higher standards in each state, the scores have plummeted. Our scores went down. There's no doubt about it. Thankfully, they didn't go down as much as they did when I was in New York the first year of Common Core. So the PA Core was a little better than the Common Core, but they did go down. There's no doubt they went down. But some of our scores are still exceptional. I mean, it was really surprising that there were a couple areas that stayed so strong with some such harder standards, so I guess that was the silver lining. We're well above the state averages and all those things, but I mean, we definitely have places where we might have had 75% passing and we went to 59% passing and things like that. But I saw stuff go from 70s to the 30s in New York. So.
The good news is in states where they've raised the standards and the tests have become more difficult, student achievement has come up.
Right.
And that's what we're all here for.
That's right.
So
it just takes time. Yep.
Yeah.
And in October, we'll talk about the strategic plan, and then you'll see where we are on all these different measures and where we want to be by the year 2020. And then the goals in the buildings will be established by September 30th. And then by December 1st, they have to have all the action plans written on how they're going to get there over the course of the next 5 years to get to those lofty stretch goals or milestones that we're shooting for. So that presentation will be in October. So this is where we are, this is where we want to get to with the stretch goals, and here's the plan on how to get there. That's it, thank you.
Item 6A is the treasurer's report. Can I have a motion to approve, please? Moved by Jack Fisher, second. Second by Jack O'Leary, discussion. Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of approving the motion before, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Item 7 is the bills for payment. Can I have a motion to approve item 7A, B, C, D, and E? Motion, please. Moved by Jack Fisher, second.
Second.
Second by John Robleski, discussion. All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Can I have a motion to approve item 8A? Okay, item 8A, items A to N, item 8B, items A to W, and item E, item A. Motion, please.
Motion.
Moved by Sue Casey, second.
Second.
Second by John Robleski, discussion. Okay. All in favor of approving the motion before, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted.
Before we go to 9, I just want to introduce item 8BF, Jennifer Murata is here for their little ones, and she'll be the guidance counselor at Kingman Delaware Primary for the fall. And Jen used to be a guidance counselor in high school before she had her 3 little ones, so welcome back, Jen.
Welcome, Jennifer. Terrific little kids, by the way. We know
Full
her
of chocolate.
experiences, don't we?
Full of chocolate. Great
So let's
bedtime.
Put 'em to sleep, right? I had my 2 little girls here once.
All right, I'm gonna ask for a motion to move into executive session for personnel, student issue, and negotiations, please.
We'll be back.
So moved.
Moved by Jack Fisher, second. Second by Brian Carson. We'll return.
Did you have business, something large?
It's here.
Okay.
My husband works in that. I'm sure you can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Um,